Hey everyone, Dave K here today, and today I want to talk you through planning your first cruise. I know a lot of friends have been really excited to see some of those cruise adventures, and a lot of people have not been on cruises before. Maybe you're considering your first ever cruise. You'll see I've done a few other videos in the past in terms of things I wish I knew before my first cruise or how to decide if a cruise is right for you. But today I want to talk about how to plan your first ever cruise. Let's say you decide you want to go on a cruise, again, Disney Cruise or some other line. Let me tell you through some of the most important things I think you should consider and some of the orders in which you should consider those things. So let's get to it. So you want to plan your first ever cruise. Well, I think it's important that you consider a variety of different factors. First thing you want to consider is when are you going? Of course, this is the first question that comes up when you're planning a cruise is when do you have availability to go, right? So you may say to yourself, you know, I'd love to go to Alaska, but you're only available to cruise in the wintertime, and most cruise lines may not provide cruises in the wintertime to Alaska. Maybe they only go in the summertime. I'm not 100% sure about all cruise lines, but I'm just kind of saying here as an example, if you're only available in the wintertime, that's the first variable you have to consider and say, okay, here are the options that I have available based on my availability. Now let's say scheduling is not on the table at all, you're not worried about when you're going to be cruising, then I think probably your next most important question, at least for me, what it would be is, where am I going? See, for me, where the cruise ship is traveling to, I think is some of the more important factors. Of course, you may find yourself on a themed cruise, and that may be what your goal is, or you may be looking for some other factors besides where the cruise ship is going, like how long the cruise is, or something else along those lines. But one thing that I look to, that I try to consider early on in my cruise planning journey is where is this cruise ship going, right? I want to check out maybe some new places, or I want to go back to some old favorites. You know, Castaway Cay is a place I like a lot, Disney's private island, and I know a lot of other cruise lines have their own private islands for their cruise ships only as well. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if you're planning a cruise, regardless of that kind of private island, private destination, and you want to focus on big targets, maybe you're saying to yourself, again, I want to go to Alaska, or I want to go to Hawaii, or I want to go somewhere in Europe. I want to go transatlantic on this cruise. You want to make sure that you know where you want to go in terms of your destination. Now, if you're planning something like a transatlantic cruise, you're going to want to consider the length of time that might take. So if you're coming from the United States and sailing all the way over to Europe, that could be a 2-week cruise right there. So if you have that kind of time, you can take that time off from school or work or whatever else it is. More power to you. I just know that's a little bit trickier for me, and depending upon who you are, it might be trickier for you as well, based on how long you can take off of work or school or whatever the case might be. So you've planned your when. You have planned your where. But it's important that you also consider your what. What? Dave, I'm going to be cruising. Yes. We get that you're cruising, and obviously that is one of the most important factors. But you want to consider what cruise line you're going to take based on what features you're hoping to have when you're on the cruise ship, what type of room you're hoping to have. Do you care if you're on the veranda, if you have a great view out the side of the balcony, or are you more concerned about saving some money? You want to get an inside stateroom so you can get something a little bit more affordable? Are you worried about being in the front of the ship or the back of the ship? Or again, are you open on that, flexible in terms of pricing? Those are all factors to consider in your cruise. You may say to yourself, you know, I'm not really sure that matters if you've never been on a cruise before, but you may find, again, depending upon where you are, you could be sitting near the engine in your cruise ship where you're sleeping, or you could be sitting somewhere a little bit more rocky if you come across some more rough seas. Now, when I say when, I'm going to go back to when really quickly here for a second, because there's so many points to consider when planning a cruise. But when you're planning your cruise, you also want to make sure that you're aware of the season and try to avoid, maybe you don't want to try to avoid it, or maybe you do, you want to avoid that hurricane season or that stormy season, the season where you may run into some turbulent weather that may negatively impact your cruise. Now, again, maybe you want to plan for that because the rates may be more affordable with your cruise, or maybe you want to plan to avoid that because it's your first cruise, you're not worried as much about the expenses as making it a fantastic experience. And that's kind of an analysis that you're going to have to do and a decision that you're going to have to make depending upon what you're looking for. But you want to consider that in the when, in addition to the what, in terms of what type of room you want on your cruise ship, what floor you want to be on, which cruise line you want to take, and those sorts of things. Now, in addition to the destination, the where you're going on the cruise, you also need to consider where you're getting on the ship and where you're getting off the ship. So let's say, for example, you're planning a transatlantic cruise and you're so excited for it. You're saying to yourself, yes, I'm going to sail from the United States all the way over to Europe. It's going to be amazing. But maybe you have to fly up to New York. Let's say you're based down in Florida, you have to fly up to New York, or vice versa, in order to catch that cruise ship, whereas maybe instead it was a lot easier for you to catch a cruise ship out of Louisiana or out of New York or that sort of thing. And similarly, maybe you'll be dropped off in Spain or in England or somewhere along those lines and have to figure out your flight back to the US kind of separately. And if you are figuring out those logistics, you may also say to yourself, well, do I actually want to spend a couple extra days in that destination, be able to just enjoy it and check it out? Maybe if I'm going all the way to Canada, or I'm going all the way to Alaska, or I'm going all the way to Europe, I'm going to spend a few extra days there, really explore, enjoy it all, or another couple weeks there and enjoy a really, really long extended vacation. If you have the opportunity to do it, it's something to consider as well. It may be a great way not for you to just enjoy some time on the water, but also to get to a destination that you've been really meaning to check out, and maybe even a more efficient way in terms of enjoyment per dollar to get there than just taking a plane flight that will take you directly there. When planning your first cruise, it's important you consider how you'll be entertained on that cruise and what sort of entertainment you like and what kind of entertainment you're into. So you'll find a variety of different cruise lines offer a variety of different types of entertainment depending upon their target audience generally, and even depending upon that particular ship. So I know Royal Caribbean, for example, has a variety of cruise ships that have maybe slides or rock climbing walls or those sorts of things depending upon which ship you're on, as well as parasailing, or what do you call it, where you're flying in the air, something along those lines. I know that's an option on Royal, whereas you may see, for example, some of these other ships have a lot more stage shows. Maybe Royal's got a lot of stage shows as well, but I think I heard that there's big bands on some cruise ships, like Royal has a bigger band, for example, whereas maybe Disney doesn't have as much of a big band when they're doing their stage shows. So if you like that big ensemble sound, then maybe you like that sort of cruise, versus if you're more focused on the actual stage and what's going on the stage, you're focused on a different type of ship. These are all variables to consider, and what is the highest priority for you. Obviously, a big piece when we're talking about cruising is the food as well, and the cuisine. I've heard so many friends talk about the advantages of so many different ships. I've heard that there's burgers you can enjoy on different ships. I think someone told me the same burgers you can get down in Planet Hollywood in Disney Springs, you can also enjoy on, I want to say, is it Royal's cruise ships? The Guy Fieri's burgers, those sounded really, really good. I'm glad to hear that those are available on a ship and on all the ships for that particular cruise line. I think it's Royal, I'm not 100% sure. But again, different cruise lines offer different ships and offer different meals. And on different ships, you've got different dining options. So with Disney, you've got those sit-down meals at least once a day. You can elect for them more regularly. You've got that buffet and that sort of thing. And other cruise lines, I'm sure, have different food options with different flavors and different quality depending upon what kind of food you like. So that's something to consider as well, is what kind of food are you going to enjoy in addition to what kind of entertainment are you going to enjoy on your cruise ship. And who are you going with, of course, is a question you must ask. Are you going to be going with kids? Are you going to be going with family? Are you going to be going with friends? Are you going to be going with your 200 closest friends that you're all coming together to get your own ship going on? I don't know what's going on with that, but maybe that's a possibility for you as well. And so you want to consider who's coming with you, what they would enjoy doing, and also the costs, potential costs of you getting a room that fits, instead of just one person, 2 people or 3 people or 4 people, versus getting several different rooms and those different cruise lines' availability to have so many rooms available for you. Let's say we want all these rooms to be back to back to back next to each other, or maybe you don't care. You just want those rooms to be available on the same ship, on the same cruise. Those are all things to keep in mind as you're planning your cruising adventure. Another question you may have asked yourself already is why? Why are you cruising? Again, is it to get to that destination? Is it to enjoy a trip, but also to get to a particular destination? Or is it just to enjoy some relaxing time on the water? Are you looking for a fun vacation for your kids? Are you looking for a fun vacation for adults, or a mixed bag perhaps? Everyone's looking for some sort of entertainment. Those are all things to keep in mind as you're planning your first cruise. We've covered pretty much who, what, when, where, why, and how here. But another thing, of course, to keep in mind is given the current situation, it's a little bit tricky. I know a lot of people aren't planning trips necessarily at the particular time, but I'm looking forward to planning trips when things calm down, things slow down again, everybody's healthy, and we're not worried about any illnesses going around. Again, I know maybe in terms of timing right now, you're not doing a lot of that planning, but these are things to keep in mind. Maybe look back on this video or share this video with friends as you're coming back to that time when you find find yourself planning your cruise and saying to yourself, all right, I think we're getting ready to sail. I think things are slowing down. We're ready for that break, ready for that vacation. I think this is a way a lot of people are going to relax after the vacation or after the situation that we're in right now. How are you going to go about enjoying that time after this situation? You'll start planning then, maybe. What do you think? So that's a quick overview. If you're planning your first ever cruise, a couple things to consider: the who, what, when, where, why, how. Now, you may want to, again, visit those private islands and those private destinations. I love that with Disney. You've got the private island. They cook for you on the island, and it's so much less crowded than any of those other destinations we've stopped off at in the past. However, you'll find that I'm sure there are plenty of amazing places that are open to the public that you'd love to be able to see that you can actually get to on a cruise ship, and that may make more sense for you than flying to that destination. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So many reasons to potentially cruise, but generally I've really enjoyed cruising in the past, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. What do you think of cruising? Do you think these are good ideas? And what other 101 tips for planning your first cruise, or how do you plan for your first cruise, do you have? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and let me know you liked it. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay informed of future adventures. Thanks so much for being a part of the fun with me today, and I'm looking forward to sharing more with you again real soon. Until next time, play on.